guys, welcome back to Black, White, and the Grays. My name is Kylie. Great. And welcome to our farm. We are located in the Cascades of Central Oregon, and we are a zone 3 with a frost risk all year round. So with that being said, I want to preface this that if you Google La Pine, Oregon, and you look at the maps of Oregon, you're going to see that there is no zone 3s. I had a comment about this week, and I just wanted to clarify in case any of you else had the same thinking. We are a microclimate here in La Pine. The local university, OSU, came in, did a study on us, found out we were actually a zone 3, not a 6. And it really doesn't matter that much unless you're buying perennials or trees or shrubs. Then it actually does matter, because we've gone all through this, my family, before even I started, until we figured out we were 3, would buy zone 6. Nothing would ever survive. My family all ended up having the mentality that a lot of people around here have, that nothing can grow here. But if you're growing the right things, all sorts of things can be grown. This is part 4 of a series I have been doing each week for our kind of generated to our local area, but anybody can plant a garden, so this appeals to anybody. But I'm really trying to be very specific. I have a band-aid on my finger because I got really sharp. I got some new knives and they're sharp as crap and cut myself so bad. So I wanted to make this video about how I plan my garden and how my brain kind of works when planning my garden. And it's really easy, and I thought, you know what, this is kind of silly easy that I don't know if I even need to make a video about it. But then I also remembered myself watching and reading all about garden planning and realizing that I was quite paralyzed. It was quite paralyzing trying to figure out, as a new gardener, or if you're new to this area, you're kind of like a new gardener. You might already know how to plan out a garden, but learning what to plant and when to plant it. And anyway, this is going to be like how to plan for a garden for this spring. Super, super duper simple. And first I want you to start by figuring out a space where you want to grow. This space was already here. We bought a foreclosure in 2015, the farm we're on, and this space was here. It was not a garden beforehand, or at least there was no signs of a garden beforehand. I'm not sure. It was connected to the chicken coop. We have put in this new fence, but there was a wooden fence, and the door to get in here was strange, like not a normal garden gate. You had to like step over the plywood. It was, I don't know, it was weird. And under a board, so you had to I'm telling you, it was strange. So we extended this. You're gonna see we have pigs in the chicken coop right now because our chickens are actually all in our high tunnel. So we have pigs in here. This was already here, so we just utilized it. It's a 5-foot fence, which is a little risky, but we've never had any deer problems here, but we do have deer problems in our 6-foot fence. The difference is this 2x6 board on top that's completely around. It's a deer perception thing, and they just don't risk coming into here, which is good. It's also a smaller space, but it feels like they would want to get in here because it's look green and juicy and yummy to eat, which it is, but no deer problems unless we leave the gate open. Then we have deer problems, and that is something you want to kind of assess out. Now, I have a lot of people say you want full sun, which I agree. I do agree, with this caveat. I'm actually standing under our giant pine tree in this garden, and it has been a lifesaver for summer. So we are in the high desert, so we get super hot temperatures still, but we can drop to freezing, frost risk all year. And this pine tree has been able to, between the big garden I have, that's a 14,000 square foot garden over there, which I've grown lettuce over there, over here, the same planting I will get more out of without it going bitter or to seed in this garden because of the shade versus over there. But then there's also negatives where I get a way better carrot harvest in the full sun and onion harvest in the full sun. So there is pros and cons. So that's why I'm in my big garden, I'm leaving some pine trees to be able to grow up and have a little bit of it where I can create a little microclimate within our microclimate to have that shade area to grow a little more production on heat or crops that really, really do not like the heat. So you want to figure out where you want your garden on your property. Measure it out. Here you can't really get away with not having a fence. We have too much deer pressure. You could do a 5-foot fence like this with the board on top. I have some family members that did some, it looks really good. It sounds chintzy, but their fence is so beautiful. They make us look like Hillbilly Haven over here. It's like a black plastic mesh fencing, and I think it's 8 feet what they have, and it just looks so beautiful. And they have beautiful raised beds, but the moral of the story is you can do it, and they paid way less money for their fencing than ours, so you can do it affordably. But I highly recommend getting fencing up around your garden. You could do hot wire if you want it cheaper this year, just to save some dough because things are spendy. And figure out where you want it. Do you want some shade? Do you want full sun? Do you want a little bit of both? And then the fun part comes. So when we first had this garden space, we had popped the chickens in the fall. I cut a hole through the plywood and let them go in both pins, and they got this ready for us the fall before I planted in the spring. You don't necessarily have to do that, but if you have that, that's a great option. And you do the area, get the area, the perimeter of your garden space, figure it out. If you already have one like I did, that's awesome. If there's already established whatever, perfect. Then you're just eliminating this step I'm about to tell you. But I also think this step is quite fun, and it's just basically measuring out and figuring out your dimensions of what you want your garden to be. Do you want to have 3 foot? These are, for example, these are 3 foot wide beds, 2 foot wide pathways, until you get to up here where the garden gate is. This pathway is actually like 2.5 feet, and this bed is a 3 and well, all of my perimeter beds except for the one right here, they're about 1.5 to 2 feet, and this one's about 3 feet. They keep skirting into the pathways. We had to adjust that this fall. We were having issues with that, but I think we got it taken care of. So figuring out what you want. Something I want you to keep in mind for your garden beds if you're building in ground or even raised beds is your reach. So like, how far do you want to reach across your bed? 3 feet is actually my favorite. I have 5 foot beds that are 5 foot wide, which is fine. But if I went any further than that, it would cause a lot of issues. Like, you have to get in the bed to deal with the bed. And sometimes you don't want to do that. A bonus with no dig gardening styles, we don't till, is that it doesn't get compact, so you can walk in it technically. Just why? I like the aesthetically, smoothly, freshly raked. It looks good, you know, and undisturbed, no footprints or whatever. So figure it out. When spring comes, if you have it all sketched out, I'll show you my garden sketch. Oops. This is what I sketched out this fall. And I basically drew a sketch, rough sketch. You can be precise or whatever. The first year I did this, I believe I had graph paper, or if not, I had measurements. I did it to scale as much as possible. Like I said, this is a 20-foot bed, 25-foot bed. This is 1.5 feet. This is whatever. I had it all measured out. So that way when spring came, I came out here with those stakes, like the construction stakes, the wooden ones. I just would measure it out with my measuring tape, and the whole thing was stringed out. I had strings everywhere marking out the pathways, the beds, everything, so that way I could visually see where everything was going to be. I love that step. It's like bare bones, and it's just a fresh start. You could do anything. Personally, I prefer clean lines. I like a straight edge. You can tell in this garden specifically, most things are symmetrical and most things are even. You also want to consider how much bed space you want to give yourself. So you can make your pathway smaller to give yourself more bed space, or if you have a lot of space to spare, you can make them bigger. I wouldn't go smaller than like 18 inches. It makes it real tight to get any sort of wheelbarrow through or walking through. When the harvest gets up, the plants start getting close together. It gets too chaotic, so keep that in mind as well. You want to maximize your space, but also not make it a hindrance to get around in there. So all of these things, so I did this in the fall, and I can already see things I'm going to adjust because of things I have learned and processed through this winter, and being like, I really think I need to change that. So when working on my plans for an established garden, you want to put in all your perennials around here, and which if you're blank space in it, you don't have this, but for me, I have a lilac, I have a gooseberry, I have horseradish over here, elderberries, raspberries, I have a currant, a catmint, more raspberries, rhubarb, comfrey, and then I have walking onions, ramps, and a whole bed of strawberries. And then it leaves me 3.5 fish beds to work with, plus the perimeter. Now, something I realized was, I'm going to just slowly turn you so you don't get sick. Right here, I have a row of raspberries. They have been on the struggle bus. They have been here for 5 years. I feel like that's plenty of time to get established, and they just haven't. I'm going to actually be digging them up and taking them over to our large garden and giving them one of my main beds to put up a really awesome trellis for them and just make them a priority over there, because that is something my family eats. We would love to have fresh raspberries all season, but preserve them out the waz. High filling, put them in the freezer for oatmeal and smoothies in the winter, or dehydrate them, what have you. So I want to be able to move those, as well as these 4 elderberries that I have marked here. So when I redo this sketch, I will have eliminated the blackberries, eliminate the raspberries on this side, because they're all moving. The elderberries are moving over there as well. I think they're just going to do so much better with full sun. And here, this bed right here, the gate is there, the raspberries are here. They're double the size. They're actually a year or two newer than they're 2 years newer planted than these guys, if that makes sense to you. And they're doing way better. But these guys are putting off offshoots and everything. I dug up a bunch and gave them to my sister, and so they're doing somewhat good. I just think the shade is really hindering them, and I'm going to give them the opportunity. So I can already think about things you want to move. Once you get your raw, if you have things to move, you might not even have that step, but that isn't another step you want to do. Then draw it out. I like to draw it out just simple squares, or even like for my large garden, this is my first rough draft. I just draw lines out, and that's kind of where I'm at and what I have thought where my brain is at with the big garden, because drawing that out is quite the task. If you're going to draw it out like this, it's a big task. But just to have it lined out and you fill it out. Now draw your layout. Then I want you to think about what you like to eat. And this is very important, because you can grow all the things, and if you don't like to eat it, it's just going to go to waste. So 2 things to keep in mind are, like, what are your goals? What are your goals with this garden, and what do you like to eat? Because those are very important. My goals I'm going to share with you are just, I would like to grow a lot of my storage crops. Well, all my storage crops I'm growing, I want it to last my family a year into the next growing season. I want to grow enough fresh produce where we don't have to go to the grocery store for produce, vegetables, what have you. I'd love to be able to do my berries eventually. We're trying to work the kinks out with that. And then I'd really like to try, if you're a local and you have berry tips, put them in the comments. Like, please. Strawberries and raspberries grow great here with no coverage. Blueberries you can do pretty good if they get a frost, though. On those blossoms, they're kind of toast. I think I'm going to do a bunch in my high tunnel. I think that would be really cool. Anyway, put your tips down and below if you're a berry grower here. My strawberries, I have a few plants this will be their 4th year, and they did pretty well last year. I was able to eat consistently off them, and then a friend gave us a ton, and we have this whole row. If we have enough shoots this year, Lord willing, I'll do a 2nd row. If those survive, I hope they do. I'd like to just bust out berries, man. Strawberries. Think about your goals. My goals, grow my family's food. Also, I'm wanting to incorporate a lot of animal fodder. So you're going to see that reflected in my garden plan for our large garden, and that is growing things that will be benefiting them, whether it be beets or turnips or rutabagas or sunflower seeds. I'd love to be able to grow enough sunflower seeds just to bag up some for the chickens to have throughout the winter. It just really boosts their protein, and they love it. Such a special treat for them. And it's not something that has to be like their main thing. We're just not on a big enough piece of property to be able to grow everything our animals need, which is okay. It's like, if we can supplement it, that's great. We supplement a ton throughout the summer just with the scraps of like turning over beds and things that have gone bad or what have you. They get a lot of vegetables. You want to take into consideration what grows well in our area. So like I had told you, the frost hardy vegetables, cold hardy vegetables. I'll give you a list of my definite ones. I have my notebook out here. So my definite cold hardy crops are leeks, storage carrots, sweet carrots, onions, red, sweet, and yellow, cauliflower, broccoli, turnips, rutabagas, peas, sunflowers, fava beans, cabbages, potatoes, celery, lettuce, mix and head, kale, collards, chard, shallots, garlic, beets, and herbs. So the garlic is asterisked because it's already planted. But those are, and the chard is also question marked. I think I'll do it. I have a ton of seeds for it, and also my chickens love it. So it's kind of something, and the cows like it. So I'll probably grow a row of those just for fresh treats for them. And it's so beautiful. With my goals, I want to grow as much as that food as possible. So like I had thought about my potatoes, and this is something you need to think about too. What your family likes, but how much of it do you need to grow? So last year we grew, I think it was 150 pounds of potatoes. It's a lot. It sounds like a lot, but for a family of 5 that eats potatoes regularly, it's not enough. So we're going to bust up our potato production. We're going to really pump it out this year. I'm going to plant the rest of my seed potatoes and anything that sprouts that I've gotten from the store. I'm going to plant it all in 4 beds in the big garden. And I realized last year we didn't have enough. So we had plenty of onions. I could plant less of those. I probably won't because you can use them for anything. You could, I have so many, I have like 3 or 4 totes of them in my storage thing. You gotta figure out how much you need of everything. Bump up crops. That's the beauty of learning to grow your own food, is realizing like, okay, I need more potatoes. I need more of this. I might need a little less of this and devote more space to what I actually need. So figuring out how much you want, how much you need. I got crazy pigs over here. I got pigs everywhere. Who needs a pig? Message me, you know what I'm saying? We have a bunch of pigs going up for sale for the spring. It's my twins' kind of hobby thing. So just, yeah, there's lots of time to think. And we're in like frozen ground, solid winter ground. It's the perfect time to plan this all out and figure it all out and get out there and do the measurements. Then come spring, get your, whatchamacallit. Get your stakes out there, plan it out, get your compost down. But now is the time to plan it out. Buy your seeds, get it ready to go. Because, yeah. Oh, hot tip. I stopped into the Cascade Landscape Supply on the corner of 97 and 31. Emily owns it. She's great. They have compost and all that, but they get their seeds in this weekend, I think she told me. So I thought I'd let you all know. And for sure by Monday or Tuesday, Valentine's Day, they'll for sure have all their seeds. I stopped in for seeds yesterday. I need seeds like I need a hole in the head, but it's a different company than I can find anywhere else. They have Seed Savers, which is a great brand and a great company, and I like supporting our local farm store. So, you know, support local, buy more seeds. That's what I tell myself, at least. Oh, funny, not funny. So I draw my basic sketches out. So this is an example of my large garden. It is a freaking sheet of ice to get over there, and I'm almost died twice going over there. So I'm just gonna stay in here. Maybe I'll move around so you get a different scenery, eh? Alrighty then. Okay, so I do this basic drawing, figure out how many beds I have, which I know. You would think I would have already knew that, but I didn't. 10 beds here, 10 beds here, 4 here, 3 here, 5 here. My greenhouse, big bed here. I have a bunch of elderberries that I'm gonna be moving. Raspberries I'm gonna be moving. And then you gotta figure out kind of crop rotation. Like, what did you plant there before? What do you need to move? What have you? And this is not going to be your problem at all if you're starting from bare bones. If you have an established garden or what have you, it's definitely something you need to consider. Now with the no-dig method, they say that you shouldn't have issues of, a lot of no-dig bigwig gardeners say that you don't need to do crop rotation because of you're disturbing the soil as little as possible, and then you're also adding so much nutrients that it can handle it. So you could technically do that. Is it worth the risk? Not in my book, but maybe you could if you were in need of it. Now, one thing I will say is I have a perfectly good few composted beds over there that I did plant in, but then the deer got in and ate all of the tops of my sunflowers. So it didn't have to grow. So I'm going to regrow a crop in there. It'll be a different crop, but I am going to regrow in that bed without putting a fresh layer of compost because I felt like it didn't even do anything for it. So that is kind of how my simple plan works and how my brain works in planning a garden. You can get graph paper out, you can do all the crazy things, let your imagination run wild. 'Tis the season for that. Get all cozy, snug as a bug as in a rug. Maybe you've got a fireplace, hopefully you do. And I just sit by my wood stove for hours throughout the winter and just plan it out, plot it out, look at all the seed magazines, watch the YouTube videos, and figure out where and how I want to do my garden this year, because the neighbor's horse is coming to visit me. Hello, horsey, horsey. It's like, what are you doing out here? So tis the season to plan. We are having sort of a mild winter. I mean, it's only early mid-February, but it still seems pretty mild, and it's kind of disheartening to me because I'm at the point where it's like, keep going, and I'm just going to expect spring. And if we get hit by a huge winter storm, which is most likely the case, then it's just going to be sad. And I love winter, and I want to enjoy this time. But this warm weather is getting to me, man. It's supposed to be a high of 51 tomorrow. That's crazy. So anyway, this is how my thought process works. It's so silly and simple, but I know that analysis, you know that saying? I know that feeling, especially as a new gardener, or if you're new to the area and aren't quite familiar with how to grow things here. It can be intimidating, and I want to make it as simple as possible. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll see you on my next one. Thanks for following along. Bye, guys. The winter garden. She's a beaut.